Hi guys, Matt Hetherington here from MHTableTennis.com, and today I'm going to be looking into another aspect of serve for my coaching tutorial video, and that aspect of serve is serve placement. And it's something that players consider a little bit, but there's one thing that I feel isn't practiced enough, and that is being able to change the placement in small increments. So a lot of players will practice a serve short to the forehand, short to the backhand, maybe long and fast to the corner, but you need to start practicing being able to change the positioning, because you can come up against players that may receive the serve really well in one point of the table, but if you start to move the serve a little bit to one side, you can sometimes change the amount of comfort that they have, or if you serve it a little bit more to the other side, maybe they reach. You need to be able to make those small changes and test how people react. One of the things that I feel players are a little bit mentally weaker with is putting all of their eggs in one basket. So for example, if I use a hook topspin serve and I serve straight to the middle of their forehand, they might come in, flip the top of the ball, make it look like the easiest serve return in the world. Now, here's the trick. Some players will then discard that serve. In their mind, they're going to say, that didn't work. That was probably the worst service choice I could have made. He's way too comfortable receiving my topspin hook serve. And they won't use it again for the rest of the match. However, a smart player might take that same serve and say, okay, what if I move that serve more across to the middle and try it again? Maybe he's not going to be quite as comfortable at receiving that ball. You never know. At this point in the middle of the table, your opponent might get stuck choosing between backhand or forehand. So the focus of this table tennis tutorial is really on looking a bit deeper into service placement and being able to practice so that you can control at any time small incremental changes in your placement of the serve. Let's look at some examples. And a serve, obviously, as a left-hander that I favor a lot is the pendulum topside serve. And we're going to look at what happens potentially when we serve to different parts of the table. So let's say I'm playing against a right-handed player. I'm playing against a right-handed player, this is going to be their backhand. So if I serve this serve here, likely response, backhand flip, probably going to be able to get a very wide angle using any side spin that I put on the ball. Against the left-hander, very difficult, because I don't want to go wide to my forehand. I don't want to leave that as an opportunity for them. So I might try that serve, might not work out. I come back again. Maybe I move the serve over a little bit. Now, things start to change. If I serve a little bit more across this way, I might open up an opportunity to drag them across. Maybe they use their backhand flip here. It's very difficult if I put a lot of side spin for them to flip down the line, but if they do, it's something that I'm prepared for, and they've found themselves a little bit more towards the middle of the table. If they flip to the forehand, I now have an opportunity to start moving a little earlier, because I know that this is a less favored outcome. If they've come across on their backhand to take on a side spin ball, odds on they're going to try and go for my forehand. And in that scenario, I can get across here earlier and try and exploit the gap that I've opened up on that backhand side, where they're not going to be able to recover and be as steady. If I move the same serve over, now we start moving into crossover territory. So a player starts needing to think about whether they're going to use their forehand or their backhand. Sometimes players can get tangled up here. If they use the backhand in this scenario, they're opening up a very large space here, and again, probably favoring a quick flick to the forehand, but if they play it down the line to my backhand where I'm already standing, I have a clear shot down the line. If they use the forehand, often the forehand receive in the middle, when the ball's coming across this way, can be a little bit more uncomfortable, and some players tend to be a little bit safer with it. So I come in with the same serve again. Now we're going to the middle of the forehand. More comfortable forehand flick territory. Not too tricky unless you have a lot of deviance and the ball's kicking really quickly. A lot of players will find this quite comfortable because the ball is more or less traveling into the sweet spot here of playing forehand flick. And then of course, if we take one more incremental movement, oops, need to go a little bit wider. Going wider to the forehand in this direction. Then the player is going to have to come across. Again, they're leaving this area of the table open. And that opens up space here. Also very difficult to control. So that gives you a basic idea of what can happen, how much things change. As with all of my tutorial videos, this gives you another layer of things with the serve to think about. And what my goal here is for you guys is not to give up on your serve so easily and experiment with different placements. And if a player gets used to your serve after multiple placements, then maybe it's time to move on to using a different type of serve. But if you just serve to one spot and with one spin and one variation, it's too early to decide not to continue trying that serve. So take the time, especially during the first game against an opponent, to not just think about changing serves, but also using the same serve or variations of a similar serve and looking for different placements and how they get different responses from players. So next time you do a service practice and you're choosing a serve that you're going to work on, you can also look at this, being able to control small changes in placement. And that requires a lot of minuscule little action controls, changes in angles, changes in body weight transfer and positioning. And if you can start to get used to that, particularly when you go into matches and your coach gives you very specific service instructions, that you can actually execute a very specific placement, and it helps give you a lot of feedback as to whether a tactic's going to work or not. So my advice to you, try lots of service placements, look at the responses, find weak areas, and you can group players together. If you play against a right-hander, you can see my example there. I've basically given high probabilities of how I think a ball will come back, and so you can group certain types of players together: pen holders, short pips players, left-handers, right-handers. You need to collect all this information. All right, so as usual, any feedback, comments, questions, put them in the comment section below. Send me an email at MHTableTennis@gmail.com, and stay tuned for my next coaching tutorial video tomorrow.